You are now watching Black Perspective TV. Like, comment, and subscribe. Enjoy.
This meeting is being recorded.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your host who thinks the most, and we back again to give you, as promised, Mr. Richard Adamson II, best known as urban journalist. PSA announcement: after today, we will be going by the Black Perspective podcast. That's the Black Perspective podcast, so we will be rebranding. As I stated, Mr. Adamson, let the people know you're here.
Hey, how you doing? I'm honored to be here. This is a great thing. I always tune into the podcast, and I love the positivity. I'm just glad to be part of it today.
Thank you. And I'm glad to have you here. Let's get right into it. As I asked a lot of my guests, let's talk about Mr. Richard Adamson. Let's talk about your backstory and what made you the person you are today.
Well, what made me the person I am today, honestly speaking, was a lot of teaching. I had mentors and teachers, but also a very high amount of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of pain. Kind of brought me to where, like, the place I am today and the mindset that I have. Growing up, I didn't understand. I didn't always understand why, so much pain was necessary. But pain, the research I did on it, pain is actually like a message. Like when our body gives us pain, it's letting us know something. And so when life gives us pain, it's letting us know something. It's also, conditioning us for something. So a lot of pain.
Okay. I want to talk about different aspects of your careers, because you are a rapper, you boxed as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to start with the rapping portion of your life. Okay, when did you tell yourself that, you know what, I want to be a rapper, I want to get this positive message out there? Because I listened to a few of your records, and the positivity that you're spewing out here is unbelievable, and you don't really see too many rappers who can basically make a whole album with just positive things. So let me know how was that from the point that you told yourself, you know what, I can rap and I need to rap in order to get this message out there, because we know a lot of youth love to listen to music.
Well, I've always been a music lover. I grew up very old school. You know what I'm saying? I listened to a lot of old school music. The Intruders, Curtis Mayfield, Marvin Gaye, Sam Cooke. So I always had that spiritual vibe. And, my mother and father, their background, my father's background is from the South, and a lot of church-going folks singing, and my grandfather, they were children of sharecroppers. How they ended up in New York is the boss, the white man they was working for, tried to beat up my great-grandmother. Things got ugly. They ended up here in New York. So a lot of that tension I could feel, like when I used to be around my grandfather, I could feel like, and my father explained to me what he'd been through. And so that's when I started learning about Black pain. Then me being who I was, the son of a preacher who was reformed. My father was on drugs and he got his life together. He had been shot by the police and put in jail and stuff like that. That happening though, a lot of times the people in the community or sometimes people around me, they wouldn't really give me a voice. It was just like, we don't want you to fall into this, so this is what it is. And there was just a lot of pressure. So with pressure and not having a voice, you always have something to get out of you. So I always had a message. I always wanted to speak and talk about how I felt, and and then also it was a bunch of things. It was me looking on TV how black men are depicted, like we're just always aggressive, we always want to fight somebody, or we always trying to prove ourselves. And I was like, hold up, we ain't all like that. I'm like, that's not a black thing. So when I discovered hip hop, I'm from that era. You know what I'm saying? I remember, the late 70s, 80s. The message, it was like the voice of the street. And I was like, that's a perfect platform for me to speak my truth. You know what I'm saying? So I started getting into spoken word and rap. And so I wanted to speak my truth. I wanted people to hear a different perspective from a black man. And that's why we called our label Emotional Studio Productions, meaning that what we're saying is what we really feel. You know what I'm saying? That's what ESP stood for.
Okay, no,
But
I know.
yeah, I wanted to give people a different perspective from a black man, because everything about us on TV and videos was aggression. Um, and I even heard a black woman say, which broke my heart, like that black men are the most prideful men, but that's not true. You know what I'm saying? Like if you really look at my history and my life story, I've had to be humbled through so many things, being illegally searched by the police, having to cooperate so I won't get hurt or put in jail, um, injustice on every side. You know what I'm saying? I faced a lot of injustices that, for coming from a religious family, like people just, they label you without knowing you. So that has happened to me a lot. And so by the time I got to the microphone, I had a whole lot to say. But I just expressed my frustrations differently, intellectually. And I wanted to show people that black men are other things other than just testosterone, aggression, anger. You know what I'm saying? So when I got to the microphone, that's why I was so honest and transparent, like rapping about pain.
Okay. Wow, yeah, that injustice in our people seems to go hand in hand nowadays, and even then, I just feel like it's getting worse now with the whole injustice thing when it comes to our black men, our black women, even going through the same exact thing. So it's not. I'm not going to just say it's just men, because our youth are going through it as well. So I'm glad you're advocating what you're doing now. It's a big thing, and a lot of us we need that. We need more people like you in our community that's going to push this narrative.
Yeah, and you as well. We need more people like you.
I'm trying. Yes, I'm trying as well. Trying to get the message out there. Hopefully, the people are listening. You guys share this interview, share this podcast, because I do promote positivity in the world. I want to talk about a couple of your songs that you that caught my attention the most, that I actually like the best. I'll say The Valley and Chronicles of a Soldier. Now, Chronicles of a Soldier, for the people who never heard of this song before, who should go listen to it, especially if you're going through something, what is the song depicting itself?
Well, the song is actually depicting the chronicles of a soldier in life, because life is a battlefield. We know that it comes with its own obstacles. That's why I always tell my brothers and sisters, don't fight each other, because we already have obstacles that we have to fight. And the song is basically pointing out pressures that come from life towards, us as black men, us as people, period. You know what I'm saying? That's why you heard me say in one of the lines, America seems to want to make me break. How much pressure can a man's mind take? I'm close to the edge. It's really a cry for help. You know what I'm saying? Like, because when a person has given into the darkness, they don't cry for help anymore. You know what I'm saying? So the song in a way is a cry for help, but it's also demonstrating the positive side of us as well. Like in one of the lines, I was saying, time, and I'm in the rap game like a roaring lion. And wisdom is the reason that I've moved with precision. That become the living. So understand my vision. It means I'm still trying to give life. I'm still, no matter how much pain and injustice I'm facing, I'm still trying to give light. You follow me? So I'm not trying to live by excuses. I'm not trying to live by making an excuse to hurt another black man or hurt another person. You know what I'm saying? So that song has chapters of meaning. You know what I'm saying? But the reason why I call it Chronicles of a Soldier, because all of the things that we, brothers like yourself, brothers like me, there's chronicles of pain. Like you could read chapters and just you know of struggle in our life and how we deal with it. That's why in the song, when you hear the hook, that's what it says. America seems to want to make me break. How much pressure can a man's mind take? I'm close to the edge. I stay in the booth trying to clear my head. In other words, I'm trying to use my creativity to clear my mind. I don't want to give in to negativity because I know what comes with that. It goes back to that song in the 80s, self-destruction. I don't want to self-destruct. So I'm doing whatever I can to stay positive, which is actually a real life story because, when our group was first formed, one of our original members was killed. We had a disagreement because, we were a conscious group, being so close to Brand Nubian, you know what I mean? DJ Alamo was our substitute teacher for a little while. He was my substitute teacher for a little while. And Grand Poobah, longtime friend. My father actually did his dad's funeral. So we was a conscious group. So one of our original members, right? There was another member before that other third member that you see in the picture, which was my cousin Ray. And Ray was going through some things. He had a handicap, so he had went to the streets for a while. So we had like a little spat at a show, and he left the group. Maybe a year or two after that, he gets shot. Mistaken identity, somebody killed him, and that broke my heart because we about positivity. I've never shot a person. I've never robbed nobody. So I just didn't understand like why that came to my family, especially when the group was trying to do something positive. But we could ask why in life all the time. But that's why I wrote that song, was to express the pain that I'm trying to overcome while still trying to do right. I haven't given into negativity.
Okay. Wow. Since you explained the song that much in depth, that's a powerful song, and that's a pretty powerful message that you're sending through there. Because a lot of us do fold under pressure when it comes to darkness, and we tend to give in just to try to make ourselves seem like we're going through life easier. So I'm kind of glad you're one of the people who did not fall into that, because I believe the fall into the darkness is what happened into our music now. I believe a lot of the people are choosing the darkness to have an easier life at everything, at least to think that they're having an easier life compared to, let's just say people from your time, the 70s, the 80s, some of the 90s who did the rapping. So where did you, from your time to the music we have now, where did you see the music starts to change and the message starts to get lost?
Well, I think it was a gradual thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm not one that blames the younger generation for everything. I think in little small areas, my generation, I don't know how old you are, but I'm fairly old. I'm 44.
I'm 30. I'm turning 32. So, but I'm pretty up on the older rap, the older music, except Brand Nubian, Grand Poobah, KRS-One, all of these gentlemen. I grew up listening to them as well. My father's a DJ, so I'm pretty up on all music.
Right. I think in little areas we slowly but surely started to drop the ball. Like in areas. And by the time the younger generation, came about, there was a lot of holes where darkness was able to infiltrate. And I often read the story about King David and King Solomon in the Bible, which was King David's son, right? These were great men. Solomon was the wisest man to ever live according to the scriptures, to the Bible, right? And David was one of the most powerful warriors and kings ever. But they had little holes which impacted their whole kingdom. Both of them struggled with lust, right? David had a man killed, over his wife. Solomon had pagan women that that didn't believe in God infiltrate his kingdom because he liked how they looked. And so that created a whole generation of a split between the nation eventually, and what that taught me was that, like, as men, we could be great men, which a lot of people from my generation were. But the little holes sometimes, myself included, we will forget. And sometimes those little holes is what the darkness waits for, because we have to understand how evil forces work. Any little portal they'll use. And so in the 90s, I started to see more of the weed smoking in the videos and the beefing. That's what really hurt us, and the kids were seeing this. And even in the older generation before us, there was little beefs. You just didn't hear about them, but there were little beefs and little schisms, and that I think that hurt because whatever you don't get rid of, it continues to grow and it spreads to the next generation. Just like when I was growing up, you had crack. Now you got K2 and fentanyl and mollies and everything. You know what I'm saying? So things progress. Cancer starts out small. You don't always see it. You don't even feel it, but it could impact the whole system.
Okay. Yeah. You're right. I gotta agree. The small things turn into big things later on if we don't stop the small things from taking place or continuing to grow. So, I'm pretty 100% with you on that. I want to talk about your boxing career. When you were rapping, when did you decide? 'Cause I, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong. I believe we all carry anger with us, and usually boxing is usually the best way to release some of that anger in a professional, more legal manner instead of doing other things. So was boxing like an outlet for you, or is it just something you wanted to do before you started rapping and decided to pursue it later after you began rapping?
Well, I was kind of doing both. You know what I'm saying? I was a busy dude. You know what I mean? I was trying to be as productive as I could. My father was a boxer. You know what I'm saying? But when he started struggling in the street, that kind of interrupted that. So I always wanted to be like, for my father, I always wanted to be like the son who lived up to his potential. My father had great potential, but one of the things he told me out of his own mouth, he was like, because of some of the decisions that he made in the street, he didn't always live up to his potential. So he always said, live up to your potential. He didn't really particularly like me boxing because, boxing is a rough sport. So boxing was a form of expression for me, just like rapping was, you know what I'm saying? But it did help me get rid of some frustration, because I had a lot of frustration built up, because when people think that the streets is harder, but trying to walk the straight and narrow is harder, because you get the same, nobody gives you a break just because you're positive. You know what I'm saying? The first show me and my producer ever did, we ran into a beef that I had to step in the middle and squash. Now we are a positive rap group. We're not bringing violence to nobody, but my producer had words with another crew from our city, same city. We from Horton Avenue, where Grand Poobah's from, and these dudes are from a project called The Hollow. We got family there, but we run into a beef and I had to squash it. I had to step in the middle. But I say that to say, sometimes hitting that bag and training it would allow me to free my mind, because when you trying to live right, even though I'm not perfect, I did a lot of bad things that I regret to this day. But when you're trying to do the right thing and it seems like more negativity comes, it builds up frustration sometimes. And boxing was the perfect outlet for me because I had to train hard. Um, you know, I had to spar, I had to eat right. It was like, I had to run. It was a lot of exercise, and I had become a heavyweight. So I was up there with the heavy hitters. So yeah, it became a way for me to get rid of a lot of pent up frustration.
Okay. I would like to put a PSA again for those who are listening, especially the youth who are listening. If you are having a lot of anger, any frustration, please use it to something positive. If you're playing sports, if you're playing football, if you want to hit somebody harder, do it that way to take out some frustration if you're playing defense. And if you want to, you can use boxing as an outlet as well to free your mind of whatever frustration you feel like you cannot bear at the moment. That goes for any and everybody, but especially for my African-American youth. Please listen and endure that message. Speaking of youth, I know you do a lot of outreach programs and I guess movements that you can say. So is there any past or current? Well, I want to know, let the people know the past outreach programs that you have been doing as well, and if there are any current ones or future outreach outreach programs that you're trying to get established at the moment.
Well, yeah, I worked with youth in drug programs because as a human service professional, drug counselor, I work with a lot of troubled youth. And then I worked with youth. I used to work in a violence program, teaching a program called Resolve to Stop the Violence Project. I used to teach it to the adults, and then I used to teach it on the youthful offender program. And I used to teach them that there's more than one type of violence. Before we're violent towards somebody else, we're violent towards ourselves through our thinking. Negative thoughts is harmful to the mind and the body. So I taught them about emotional violence, intellectual violence, verbal violence, and eventually what leads to physical, and just teaching them to channel their energy into something positive. I'm currently working on like a life coaching business called Rise Humanity, where one of the specialties will be dealing with youth who carry around anger, because carrying around anger from past pain, that can be imprisoning. And a lot of people mistake these young boys for wanting to be tough, but they're hurting. They've been abandoned by a whole generation. And then nothing is left for them but the streets, and then the police, and then death. So why would they be happy? You know what I'm saying? Like, why would they walk around with a smile on their face?
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree. That makes a lot of sense. That makes perfect sense. I agree.
Yeah, I don't like when people say, oh, well, your father's, yeah, you don't have no father, but get over it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I watched a counselor that I worked with years ago do that. There was a guy, a kid that I worked with in a program. He was a big kid, but he was being taken in by the streets. So one day he broke down and cried and said, my father abandoned me. I'm upset about that. So the other counselor went at him like, well, how much you gonna cry about that? How long are you gonna cry about that? Get over that. Da, 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 da. But we deal with our young men wrong. You know what I'm saying? And if you listen to my songs, The Valley, you hear me processing and acknowledging my pain, but then trying to reach a solution. I speak with the music instead of using the gun. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of our young men is not being dealt with like that. They're being told, shut up, be quiet, toughen up. Then we wonder why they go to the streets. And then we wonder why they don't make good husbands or good fathers. You know what I'm saying? Because they're being groomed to think like animals. And that's the part that bothers me. So the community work that I've done, like I've done marches, for young men who have been killed in the street. Me and my father, we marched for a brother named Harlem World that was killed years ago, gun violence, you know, and my family suffering uh, loss from gun violence. I'm always reaching out to the youth. That's why I cleaned up my music. When I first started, my anger was just coming out. It wasn't necessarily a negative message, but you could hear. And I said, I gotta channel this more. You know what I'm saying? So I do a lot of work with the youth through my profession, human services. That's why I studied human services, to learn how to help a person, to learn how to help the youth, because too many people try to help the youth with opinions. And I can't go up to a young brother who's 15 years old and I'm 44 and tell him that I know what he's feeling. I don't know that. I have to ask him. So one of the things that I do as well through community groups sometimes and just on my own is outreach ministry. Like I went in the jails with the Bible, and me and the youth, or me and the inmates will build, and I mean that could be a tough thing, because the officers, they put you in what they call the day room. They lock the door, they go. So it's just you and them. You know what I mean? So you got to be real with it. And I try to give of myself, whatever community groups I'm involved in. I used to be involved in a group called the Gathering of Men. I had just left them because I felt like it was getting too political, and I don't always want to do the political thing. I think that young men need to see somebody from their neighborhood or their walk of life, or just somebody that cares.
Yeah.
To talk to them. So I've done a lot of work in the jails before the COVID. Now that the COVID is appears to be slowing down somewhat. The young lady who I talked to about doing ministry in the jail, we've been talking again. So I'm going to go eventually, I hope, to go back to the jails. And I'm still in the drug programs, to answer your question. I'm still in the drug programs, overseeing a youth program. There's a youth program that I oversee. And so I don't just give them like the don't use drug speeches, but I also provide them with education and information. Information is helpful. Sometimes in our society, people like doing this wrong. Like we always want to catch somebody doing something wrong, but help them. You know what I'm saying? And so I find that when I approach and help them, it does better. But yeah, those three things, through the churches, I mentor some young men. I'm a percussionist. I play drums, drum sets, African drums, all that. So, I have two students. One of them went to college, but I was teaching the young men the drums for free, no charge, no money. The young men that want to learn the drums, I was teaching them that. I used to help out with a little boxing program in Mount Vernon, New York. And we used to do, as a matter of fact, rest in peace, Alan Ayers. Alan Ayers was a former police officer who used to allow us to, participate in the boxing training in the gym. And I used to be a member of the Mount Vernon boxing team. And we used to take a lot of young brothers off the street and teach them discipline, not violence, but discipline, staying in shape. Not being promiscuous, not drinking beers and all this. Keep your body in shape, because when you're in that ring, your opponent's going to be ready. You got to be ready. So, yeah, through a lot of community-based programs and through my profession. I didn't mean to ramble on. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. The more information we get, the more people can understand exactly what it is that you're exactly talking about. So information is helpful. So don't ever worry about rambling on. We have time. There's no rush in this. That's great. I would like to take if you have any links, any websites to that you can share with me after the show, I'll gladly start sharing it and start promoting it a lot on my tags on my Facebook, Instagram, and things of that nature. I'll start sharing that, because we need discipline. A lot of us out here, we need the discipline, and I think a lot of people are getting discipline confused with what was you just said?
Abuse.
But basically, with abuse, we get you're wrong. You're not helping people, and then people don't realize it's discipline is the issue that we're not giving, and instead of thinking that it means you're abusing somebody, A lot of people, if you tell somebody I'm trying to give you discipline, the first thing they think of is you might be trying to abuse them. So I'm glad you clarified when somebody says discipline, it can mean different, it has different meaning to it than, you know, I'm going to put my hands on you. So that's it's a good thing that you mentioned that. I want to talk about as well the younger and older generation, the standstill that we're having between both. Because there's an issue now because the older generation, they handle things a certain way, and the new generation now are handling things in a way where it's not helping, to the point where it gets the older generation upset, and then everybody's blaming the other instead of meeting in the middle and trying to figure out what's the actual separation.
Well, honestly speaking, from my observation, right, in my 44 years of living, right, and I don't know everything, I would definitely tell you I'm not the smartest person in the world, but in my 44 years of living and experience, there's something that the younger generation does not have that the older generation did, and that's family. Family has a great purpose. Always, and I always tell people, remember this. Whatever God institutes, Satan will always try to destroy it. So God created order, so Satan comes with disorder. You know what I'm saying? Any disease in your body that's known as a disorder can potentially be life-threatening. Why? Because it threatens the order. Family was order. You know what I'm saying? Mother, father, siblings, right? A system. We eat together. We learn together. We pray together. Daddy and mommy don't just feed you, but they actually have conversations with you. They talk to you about life. You know what I'm saying? We had that. You know what I'm saying? You know, but now some of these children are home by themselves 8 hours a day or more. Like I was listening to like the story of Monster Cody, and Monster Cody from the West Coast was saying that his father was absent. His mother had to work to pay the bills and keep food on the table. So all day he was in the street. You know what I'm saying? So one of the things that the youth do not have is family. That's one. Family gives you structure. Was everything perfect in my life? No, but because I have family, right, I understand what it means to be a husband. I understand what it means to be a father. You know what I'm saying? I have 2 daughters. I don't just feed them. I talk to them. I show them affection. I show them how a man should treat them. By the way, you know, I treat my wife. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's perfect, but I do try to make sure I got structure. There's a certain amount of time I'll stay out the house. Like if I'm working or doing something, but I don't come home really, really late. You know, I give myself a curfew because I need them to see that the man comes home. I need my daughters to see that I'm raising 2 black females. You know what I'm saying? So I need them to see what a man does. So I make sure I'm in the house no later than between 8 and 9. You know, whatever I'm doing out there to earn the money for the family, at a certain time, it's a cutoff. And I'm like, okay, I got to go home. You know what I mean? So I'll have some energy to spend with them. But now the majority, and I'm speaking from experience, the majority of the youth that I work with, they don't even really get conversations, not healthy ones, from their family. You know, and the other thing that the youth don't have today is a safe world. You know, when my parents was growing up, don't get me wrong, things happen, but they weren't so blatant. Like I was watching a video of a dude that was sitting on a subway, and he was watching a little girl sitting on her mother's lap. The mother was like falling asleep, and he tried to snatch the baby. You know what I'm saying? So like, there's so many guns on the street, so much violence being promoted. The world is is not safe. And it's a scientific fact that if a child is raised without safety being provided, their behavior becomes high risk because they do not have a concept of safety, so I think that sometimes the older generation is too judgmental on the younger generation, because number one, they romanticize the older generation like there was no gun violence or drugs or molestation and rapes and stuff. Like, there was a lot of that. It just was in the background. The youth didn't really see it. Today, the youth sees everything, right? Mentally, our society molests our youth. We realize that our youth are mentally molested.
I agree. Now that you said that, I definitely agree. You are correct. Through TV and the things we see all the time, yes, they are being molested mentally.
Mentally, they are molesting these children. You know what I'm saying? I didn't see in the music videos when I was coming up. I mean, you had some wild stuff, but I never seen, songs, girls kissing girls, dudes doing all kinds of crazy things, with themselves, and like, and I don't judge nobody, but the things that our youth sees, there were certain things that as youth we didn't have access to. And that was because at that time there was a little more, like I said, order. I didn't have access to porn. I didn't have access to alcohol. But today things are so easy to get to for the sake of money. I mean, just think about it. In some communities that I've worked in, I've ran into youth 15 years old. They got guns. I didn't have no gun at 15. I didn't have no gun at 20. You know what I'm saying? So I have to worry about getting shot by a 15-year-old. But again, I think the younger generation, they have some responsibility too. But I always tell the older folks, they didn't get where they are by themselves. The reality is they're not being raised with families. There's a lot of babies being born out of lust. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that I'm a perfect man. I've lusted, you know what I mean? But believe you me, the majority of women that I got with, in my younger days, I was hoping that they would be my wife. I always knew that I wanted to be a husband. I didn't want to, just birth no children and they see me every once in a while. Like, I'm not a person that wants the system raising my children. I'd rather die, honestly. I'd rather, if the system has to raise my children and you're not going to allow me to be a father, like, nah, that's part of my manhood. You know what I mean? Like, I will not, like, as I shared with you, off the record, but I'll say it now. My oldest daughter, me and my wife raised her, but she's not from my wife. This was before I met my wife, right? I had to get my daughter out the system. I went to court so many times, I almost lost the job I had before. But I had to let them know I will come to court for 10 years straight. I'll come to court till she's grown. I made her. I want my child. I wouldn't care. You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of the youth is not getting that, though. A lot of these places I've worked in, the babies are born out of lust, and like, they're put in a home when their behavior starts to demonstrate what they learn, and then they're just left. Like, nobody wants the child because, I've even had people bring me their children because they know I'm a counselor, and they're like, oh, I can't control her, I can't control him. But I have to ask them, well, did you nurture this dysfunction? Was you and the father fighting and cussing each other out? Did y'all get, you know what I'm saying? So the older generation is very judgmental on the youth, but they did not get where they are by themselves. Like I said, so and this is not just because I'm saying it. You can read the scriptures; it'll tell you. God got angry at the leaders. Like, if you read the book of Deuteronomy, he was like, "Yo, you need to tell them how I delivered you out of slavery." But he was saying, tell the children, don't just take my blessings and then just go, because you're leaving another generation in darkness. And there's also another scripture that says, train up a child in the way they should go, and in the end they will not depart from it. In other words, they might go astray a little bit, Everybody does. I did. You know what I mean? But if you give them the knowledge and you give them the wisdom and you give them the message, it's there. But a lot of these kids are not getting the message. You know what I'm saying? They getting sex, drugs, guns, the streets, and then when they want to talk about their pain, everybody's like, I don't have time, or nobody wants to talk to them until it's time to lock them up. Now, you know, and I'm telling you what I see because I've been working in human services for 22 years. I've been a voice. I've been an advocate. Yo, listen, this young man needs a program. This young sister needs, and everybody's like, you know, I don't have time, you know. But then when they get high again or end up shot or into something, then everybody's like, oh. And I say, yo, I've been telling y'all this. I saw this coming. But everybody ignored it because a lot of people don't want to get involved. And that's what upsets me. Everybody wants to talk that black power, but when it comes time to get involved, you don't want to get involved. And that's what makes me angry about us sometimes. Like we got all this heart to beef with each other, but then when it comes to really facing the evil, we're a little quiet. Some of us, we're a little humble. I've been left on the battlefield plenty of days, man. And I'm telling you, whoever's seeing this that knows me, they know exactly who and what I'm talking about. I've been left on the battlefield by myself, by a lot of people. You feel me? So I'm sorry to ramble like that.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm learning more and more about you. You're good. You're good. You're good. Mm-hmm. So you are correct. We ignore the signs. And the fact that the thing is the signs are usually there. There's a lot of us, like you said, we're not caring for one another to help the other. And the fact that we do yell Black Power a lot. And I should bring this up to us because it brings me to BLM, to Black Lives Matter. And I feel like nobody's gonna take BLM serious unless someone else is doing something to us. That's the only time we seem to want to scream and march and do all this movement things for a movement. I believe technically it wasn't for us. It was given to us, but I feel like even though it was given to us, we should take it and make it to a point where we make it ours, where we make sure that we're actually believing and telling ourselves that we give a damn that Black lives do matter, because we keep killing each other with no problem. We have no problem beefing with each other. And yet the outside ethnic groups are seeing that, and they're not going to take us as serious, especially for the ones who really do believe that Black lives do matter and the people who wants to actually stop it. But it's like we are overpowered by those who are, one, ignoring the signs of people who need the help, one who are, I'm going to say, fake pro-Black. Because you cannot tell yourself that you are absolutely pro-Black and then yet ignore people who need your help. To ensue that, okay, it's okay to shoot one another. We're just gonna light a candle and keep going about our business. Or the people who want to, I believe they said some people smoke weed at the candle lightings and things of that nature. Somebody giving a salute to this person and things of that nature. And there's a lot better ways for us to actually honor our brothers and sisters who fall to us killing each other, and the fact that we're so prideful that we don't seem to, a lot of people don't want to ask for the help. If you're going through it, I don't want to ask for help, because nowadays you get talked about. People will, oh, well, this person asked for help. Let's go start a rumor about them, and let's go start this, let's go start that about them. And the fact that these are things that's bottling us up, that we're still stuck in this box that we're already put in, and it seems like we're like crabs in a barrel where we're trying to pull the next one down instead of trying to formulate a plan that we all can get out of this barrel together. And I'm glad you're hitting on some of these points, because I feel the same exact way about us as a people, where we can do better if we try to elevate one another.
Right. And you see how me and you was building. This is very important what we're doing, because me and you are building as brothers, as Black men. Like I'm just being honest. Some of my beef with the conscious community is like, you got really intelligent brothers there, man. And it's becoming like WWF. This one don't like that one. All these debates. Like me, I don't debate at all. I let a man choose his own path. I'm not God. I don't have a right to tell to force a man to choose what path. You know what I'm saying? But I'm watching brothers beef with each other, and like you said, other groups. That's why they don't take us serious, because they watch us dismantle each other. Like the conscious community, like I said, is filled with intelligent human beings, intelligent brothers. Like I've heard some of these brothers speak, heard some of these brothers, and I'm like, wow, you know what I'm saying? The fact that you know that much history, the fact that you know, all these scholars, the fact that you yourself are a scholar, but everybody, it's like the new thing now. Everybody looks for a debate or argument. But I often tell my brothers, I say, listen, we need to learn how to have a healthy agreement. You know what I'm saying? We need to learn how to have, if we don't know how to have a healthy agreement, that's like almost saying we're not family, and that's bad. You know what I mean? And just like with myself, one of the things that I get frustrated with certain people that have been in my circle, they get mad at me for my involvement in the church because I believe in the Bible or whatever, and they say that that's the white man's God. But when I call on them, which first of all, that's not true, because like you said, certain things could be given to us, but I often say that it's not a religion that's bad, it's what a person does with it. Like you could give me money right now, right? You gave me a gift. If I go buy drugs with it, or if I go buy a prostitute, that's not your fault. It's not the money that was bad. It was what was already in my heart. Just like they say absolute power corrupts. It's not true. I was already corrupt. I'm just giving an example. If I become a corrupt leader, you might not have known it before I got power. You know what I'm saying? Like the corruptness was already in me. It's just when I got the power to express that corruptness. You know what I mean?
I got you. I got you. Yeah.
But a lot of people have come at me for that. But I'm like, these same brothers, when I call on them to come with me on the battlefield, they're not there. Case in point, a lot of these dudes that I know, I've got more people out of jail than they have. I've written more letters for people in their court cases than they have. But you're screaming Black Power. You know what I'm saying? When I was in my situation, I love this brother to death, one of my mentors, but the system, I'm not going to name the place, but there was a place where I called them out on their corruption because they were supposed to be helping these clients with the money they was getting, and they wasn't. They were stealing it. So then they came at me and tried to set me up, make it look like I was stealing petty cash, but they gave other people the key to the office where it was wild. So I went to my mentor and I said, yo, listen, this is what was happening. But when it came to these religious debates, he had all this stuff to say about my religion. He had all this stuff to say, just making it look like it's my fault. But when it comes time for you to speak, like he would tell me, yeah, I know they over there stealing, but he would tell me when it was just me and him one-on-one. But I'm like, what about when it counts? And this is what I'm saying. Like, people debate about stuff. We waste time debating instead of being solution focused. I'm solution focused. I'm too old to be arguing. I don't have as much time on the planet as you. You know what I'm saying? You're 32, right? God bless you. But I don't have as much time on the planet as somebody 25 or 20. So I got to make the best of these years. You know what I'm saying? In a few years, I'll be 50, right? So I have to make the best of my time. So I've had to write letters to get, to help people in federal court. I had to write letters to get, brothers complete programs to help them get revoked and restored, which means parole allows you to have another chance out in the street to do better. A lot of these dudes that's claiming all of this, and that's what bothers me too. That's another part of me that gets frustrated, because I'm like, y'all claiming all this, spewing all this knowledge, but it's my name that's on these letters that's going to the court. You know what I'm saying? I've gotten a lot of people out of jail. Do I want anything for it? No. But don't leave me on the battlefield by myself. If you criticize me, you use your energy, and this was my beef with my mentor. I'm like, you gave me a lot of good knowledge, but this is what you did though. You show up and criticize me and all of that. Cool. But don't leave me on the battlefield. by myself, and you see these people coming at me, and you know I'm not guilty. They just feel like, yo, he's exposing us. Yeah, I'm exposing you. You're stealing money that's supposed to be helping the youth. You know what I'm saying? So, and then y'all want me to work with y'all. No, I'm not gonna work with you and you doing that.
I
You know what I'm
agree.
saying? So yeah, so that's the part where it bothers me. Like a lot of people want the image of Black Power. Like a lot of people scream Black Power and knowledge for style, because it's the style. You know what I'm saying? So they jump on the bandwagon. That's what my mentor used to do. He used to jump on the bandwagon. He used to talk about scream Farrakhan doing all this, but you're not doing anything Farrakhan would do. You're condoning the corruption. So how could you call these brothers names, Malcolm X and all these people, but you're turning your head to the corruption? Then I get it if you're too scared to go at it. You do have to pick your battles. But then my thing is, why is your fist in the air then, so to speak? And that's the part that had me frustrated because, it's not easy getting brothers out of jail. It's not easy, helping families. And, but I've done it by the grace of God. I give all glory to him because he put it in my mind and in my heart. But, people deserve a second chance. I don't condone crime, but I know that people deserve a second chance. And I've seen other professionals like, yo, leave them in jail. And I'm like, how could you say that? One of the brothers that I used to work with, he was a former inmate, and he was harder on the brothers than any white officer I ever seen. Oh, don't write them no letters. Don't do that. Just wanting to see somebody. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's why you see.
Ridiculous.
Oh, man. My brother, that's why your platform caught my attention, because I seen something different with your platform. Like I see a lot of other platforms, but I see arguing and debating and trick questions and fighting and arguing. And like you said, the other ethnicities, the other races, they look at that. Look at how they beat each other up on a stage where we could see it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep,
so
exactly.
It's like, yeah, that's my frustration. That's one of them.
Okay, wow. Yeah, you're 100% up, bro. You are very intellectual. I see that you are a very intellectual person, and I'm a bit. I've done this thing on some of my live shows where I'm into trying to give people their flowers while they're alive, because we have a habit of trying to celebrate people when they're gone, and the person is not going to really feel that celebration because they're not here to accept it. And I've done a lot of the people like on Earth now, a lot of the smaller people. Like there's a pastor named Corey Brooks in Chicago who's constantly trying to put BLM who's constantly trying to go at BLM because they're not helping Chicago, especially the south side of Chicago, places like that. Because we have places in New York, California, Memphis, Chicago, St. Louis. We got a lot of places where the youth is constantly killing each other, even innocent bystanders just sitting in their living room being killed by a stray bullet and things of this nature. He's out there putting in the work, and he's not getting the notice that he should be getting, or the flowers that he should be getting now while he's alive. Because I feel like people will wait till he passed to try to say all the good that he's done, and he's not getting that now. So I've even done I've done a video on YouTube as well for Pastor Corey Brooks as well. And I, my friend, would like to put you in that same category when it comes to we need to give people their flowers now while they're alive. Don't get me wrong, we have celebrities who are doing great things who need to be put in Black history, and you are one of the people I feel like should be put in Black history now for the things that you're trying to accomplish now, which is a lot of times are going unnoticed because you're not as big as some of the other people. But from me to you, I will put you on my list of Black history celebrities and people who've done things for our people. Just want to get that out the way.
I appreciate that. It's rare that people ever say anything like that to me, man. I really do appreciate that.
No problem, man. You deserve it. I want to touch on the advocating, because I know you're an advocate of this. We spoke about this off the record. I myself believe between government and citizens, especially our citizens, our people, we already being bullied into a lot of things. So I know you're an advocate on bullying. So what is your take on bullying itself?
Well, I think that bullying is a very dangerous disease in our nation, in our world, but namely, we're talking about our nation, our society. Bullying, in my experience, is the cause of a lot of gun violence and gang violence because people are tired of being victims. I mean, bullies are often allowed to continue their behavior. I can remember when I was coming up, I wasn't always 6 foot and 240 pounds. You know what I mean? When I was a little kid, you had a lot of bullies in the school, and a lot of times the teachers ain't want to be bothered. I would tell them, and they're like, and so I seen a couple of dudes I grew up with turn to like guns and all of that, and end up like actually like really seriously hurting people. You have workplace bullies that bully people trying to do their job. I went through that. I guess some people thought I was of what we do, and sometimes people feel like if you're going to get the credit, they want to stop you somehow. And I use those because I work in human services. So a lot of times people see us as leaders or ministers in a way. Not that I try to mix the two. You have people that bully people on the street. We do it to each other. If I'm angry about my home, if I come outside and find somebody that I could bully in the street, I've seen it happen. But the problem about bullying is it's never addressed the right way. Like a young man that I read the story about him in the Bronx. He begged for help, and the teachers didn't respond to him. He told everybody, this kid is robbing me, he's doing this. And especially when it's boys, they're like, oh, well, you need to fight. You need to fight. Then that's what ended up happening. They didn't tell him to go fight, but he ended up getting a knife and somebody died. And now everybody's like, oh my gosh. But we've been telling you, when I worked in youth programs, they used to allow bullying, some of them. I was an advocate for clients. I literally have a credential in client advocacy, peer advocacy. So I used to advocate for the clients who's in the program trying to get clean. They shouldn't have to worry about somebody trying to beat them up or do other things to them. So, excuse me. So I used to send out the emails and talk to my supervisor and say, hey, listen, I heard that they're planning on jumping this kid, or and they wouldn't really even want to be bothered with it. They used to say, stop sending the emails and stuff. I'm like, how could you tell me to stop sending the emails? But then if this kid gets hurt, they're going to say, Richard, why didn't you say anything? You know what I mean? Like an incident where I walked in on something very disturbing. I won't go into detail what it was, but a bigger kid was preying on another kid. I reported it. I said, yo, stop. What you doing? You know what I'm saying? I stepped in. I reported it. They pretty much like just swept it away. Another time, they jumped this kid and they stripped him, took his clothes off, right? So I ran up on the situation. What y'all doing? So I sent out the message, yo, y'all just violated him, bro. That's violation. You can't strip somebody and force them to expose themselves. They swept that under the rug. However, that got to the social worker somehow. And the social worker came to me and said, Richard, we're going to handle it. We're going to let the authorities know that you did report it. So what happened was the social worker, black woman, she got my back and she took it further and the situation was addressed. You know what I'm saying? But just the fact that that it was overlooked, I was like, how could y'all just let that go? That's insane for y'all to do that, for somebody to be violated like that. But the first thing that our society, many people many facets of our society wants to do is sweep it away. And that's the part that frustrates me. They want to sweep it away,
Yeah, I
act
agree.
like it didn't.
I agree with the
And
sweep.
then, yeah, but the pain doesn't go away. And then you wonder why we have so many people wilding out, like erratic behavior, because they're having to carry that I was violated and I screamed for help and nobody showed up. That's agonizing. So I think that the problem of bullying is an epidemic. It's a pandemic within the pandemic. It's still happening. And you have bullies everywhere. Bullies, you have judges that are bullies, you have bosses, supervisors that are bullies, you have gangbangers that are bullies. The bullying mentality is not just limited to the streets, it's everywhere. You have religious leaders that are bullies, it's everywhere. So, to answer your question, yeah, that's my take on it. And I think that the victims need to be helped.
Yeah, I agree because there's a few times I was bullied. Not to the extreme where I had to, was forced to take clothes off or anything of that nature, but it's more of a school bullying where you had certain kids that like to pick on other kids all the time, even when the kid is not even bothering them at all. So I was on the receiving end of bullying, and I can tell you myself what goes through your mind and the ways you try to think of to try to stop the bullying. It goes beyond what's needed to be done, and then you look like the bad guy. You look like you should have did this, or people. Suicide is another thing that can also happen when somebody's being bullied and they're not receiving the help, and they feel like that's the only way out to stop being bullied
Yeah.
is suicide as well. So, and that has crossed my mind
Mhm.
before. I mean, I'm 13, 14 years old around this time. So it's not like this was some recent, but this is in high school. So it's a big thing when you try to get help from certain people and then, it gets ignored. So these are the signs and
Yeah.
that people
Mhm.
ignore. And mental health awareness, this is why we have it at the state it's at now and the cases we have now, because nobody's getting the help that they're asking for, that they're crying for, and these are the results we get.
Yeah, and you know what? All bullies don't bully with like violence, like guns or fists. Like you have some bullies that touch other people. You know what I'm saying? I've seen instances where people have had to ask other people to stop touching them, and the person feels like because I'm bigger than you and you can't do nothing about it, I'm gonna keep touching you. You know what I'm saying? I've been through that. When I was younger. That there was a bully that felt that they could touch my body. And I used to say, yo, come on, you know what I'm saying? But they felt they could keep doing it because the adults never stepped in or the people in charge never stepped in. You know what I mean? I was violated violently by a teacher, punched in the head. They never fired the teacher. They never even did nothing, And I told what happened. I told that the teacher punched me in the back of the head. The teacher's ring pierced my skin. You know what I'm saying? And and it really wasn't necessary. Like I wasn't the type of child that people was afraid of, so they didn't have to. You know what I mean? There was no, not that that's the answer, but there was no logical reason for that teacher to punch me in my head. And I even said years later, the population I work with, these kids are really tough. Some of these kids would kill me. You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying they, the teacher tried to make it seem like, I needed to be punched in my head. Like I was that type of a student. And I'm like, man, the systems I've worked in, try doing that to one of them children, one of them kids who's 6 feet like me or tall or bigger. You know what I mean? I've been in some areas where I've worked in some places where these, some of these kids are coming out of like jail and they living like grown men. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I've suffered a lot of abuse, as a man of color, as a man, period, growing up, which I talk to my wife about often,
Okay. Well, there's a couple more things I want to touch on before we get out of here. I want to talk about what is your take on the war on drugs?
Hmm. My take on the war on drugs.
Yes.
My take on the war on drugs is there's some areas of this war on drugs, if you will, where we need to think of a new strategy and we need to revamp some of the programs to focus more on human beings. Um, I think that our society is becoming more and more medicated. Um, we have to address people's pain because if we don't, they're going to continue to medicate. A lot of people walk around without their pain being witnessed, and that's a huge door opener for drug use. Yeah, I feel like we're losing a lot of lives to drug use, but not only lives, I feel like we're losing a lot of potential. There are a lot of people in the grave, right? Um, who would have been president, who would have been great civil rights leaders, would have been great songwriters, authors, but drugs stole their potential. They never reached that purpose. And when I look at that's what see, I don't I don't visit grave sites. I have my own reasons for that. But when I drive past like the graveyard, I'm like, man, there's a whole lot of presidents, a whole lot of star athletes, whole lot of authors, whole lot of inventors, scientists that we never knew. And I'm telling you what I know because I knew a lot of Michael Jordans. When I worked in jail, I met a lot of Michael Jordans. I met a lot of Mike Tysons. I met a lot of even potential Muhammad Ali's. But we never knew them because of drugs and the streets and dysfunction. I mean, I know you like I don't know. You remember the boxer Roy Jones, right?
Yeah. We're
Roy.
Jones, yeah.
I grew up with a cat just as just as good and punch harder, but nobody ever knew him. And when I tell the youth, for real, when I tell the youth about what I'm saying about these guys, they're like, no, and I'm like, man, listen, I knew a guy, God rest his soul, but from years of drug use, he's passed away now. But this guy would jump clean over cars, clean over cars. You understand what I'm saying? I I could we would have to do a whole nother show if I was to sit here and tell you all of the people that I personally know that drugs stole from us,
Oh
that
wow. Okay.
great authors. Yeah. When I was doing music, right? Uh, you know, before my group disbanded, because my group actually disbanded, but I knew a brother from New Rochelle, New York, and another brother from Mount Vernon, New York. And I was trying so hard to sign these dudes because they were 10 times as good as what you was hearing on the radio. And I was like, but the streets. And I was like, breaks my. That's why like I'm in the field that I'm in. I do the work I do because I seen a lot of potential stolen. Like just like listen, I told you about my father, who was a boxer and a football player too. But my father told me that he started getting high, and then eventually he stopped. Because my father played semi-pro ball. Um, but the streets. It's just a blessing that he's alive and he turned his life around. But him, so I'm related to him. Um, I could go on, but to answer your question, we're losing great people. Um, we got to re-strategize in some areas, and I'm saying we. I'm not just putting it on. I'm not one of those people that just put it on the system.
Yeah,
We could do stuff too.
I agree.
We
Yeah.
could do stuff too. Yeah, we could do because one thing I've seen us do as people, period. I'm not even just talking about black people. Whatever we don't want in our society, we get rid of it if we have the power. You know what I mean? So it's just a lot of things we gotta re-strategize in those areas. So that's my feeling about the war on drugs.
Okay. That's perfectly said. That's perfectly said. Because I definitely agree. We do have to re-strategize on how we're doing this because medicating is not helping.
No.
All right. Two more things as well. But I'm gonna start with this because actually a few more things. Relationships. Let's start with relationships. Now, off the record, we want to speak about that. But what is your take when it comes to relationships? Because nowadays we don't have those. I don't think those even exist as much nowadays than past tense. So what is your take on relationships now? Because we see a lot of debates and everybody arguing about relationships and who wants to be married this and who don't want to be married, and men don't want this and women don't want this. What is Richard Adamson's take on this?
My take on it is that nobody, well, I'm not going to say nobody, but a lot of people don't want to work on themselves. It's more of what the men aren't doing, what the women aren't doing. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people don't want to work on themselves. A lot of people don't want to look in the mirror. Marriage takes work. You understand what I'm saying? Marriage takes evolvement. And a lot of people don't want to work. They like the romance part. You know what I mean? But there was a whole lot of things I had to change when I got married. Like, I really don't hang out. And people look at me like, oh, you don't really have a social life, which is not really true. But there's just a lot of things. But in order to gain something, you got to get rid of something. That's what people don't realize. Like, for a butterfly to become a butterfly, the butterfly has to get rid of its old form. It can't stay a caterpillar. You know what I'm saying? A butterfly can't be like, well, I want to be half butterfly, half cat. Nah, if you're going to become that butterfly, you got to get rid of that old form. With relationships, I think that people get too selfish. It's like they, I always told people, I'm like, I don't want to come into the relationship with a set of rules. In other words, this is what I got to do to impress the woman. This is what I got to do. I got to figure out. I don't want to do that. I want us to learn each other and not let our own preference or our own opinions get in the way. Like, I don't have an opinion about marriage. It is what it is. I don't have an opinion about fatherhood. It is what it is. I either have to adapt to what it is or make a decision. One of the things that my wife does for me that helps me is my wife doesn't do what I think happens to a lot of men. A lot of men are analyzed. Like, for years, I've heard people talk about what men want, how they feel. And I'm like, you have no idea. Just like I wouldn't try to tell a woman about being a woman. I can't do that. I'm coming out of my lane. So I don't care how insightful I think that I am. And I may have some insight, but that doesn't mean I have the whole picture. So I think that there's too much stereotyping and too many games played. People are not enjoying relationships. People are not really, they're coming in with their concept. And I used to have to tell, women in the past that I've dated, learn about me, ask me, just like I have to ask you. Don't just assume. And, I used to tell women, I don't want to be treated like I'm just a hard penis. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need more than sex. I've heard women say for years, all men want is sex. And then I have to say, no, maybe the ones you met, but I need more than that. I need respect. You know what I'm saying? Right. I need respect. I need trust. I need how should I say it? I need understanding. You know what I mean? Partnership, all of these things, and it's the same thing with a lot of brothers. Like, I've seen a lot of brothers who, they don't have the right picture when it comes to relationships. They just think like, it's just supposed to flow. Like, however it goes, it just goes. Like, me and a brother that I knew, I don't want to say we got into like a debate, but we got into a small back and forth because I told him, I said, yo, listen, As a man, I've never lived off of a woman. I said I never lived with a woman that wasn't my wife. I've had relationships, but I have too much dignity to live off of a woman. And so he got mad, and he was like, well, I'll live off of a woman, if it's part of the plan. And I was like, what plan? And this brother that I knew, he was getting money in the street. So I'm like, you got all this money. Why would you live off of a woman?
Exactly.
But my thing is, I have to command respect. I didn't always understand that as a young man. I didn't always understand that a woman can lay with you and not respect you. You know what I'm saying? And so if I'm laying on her couch, eating her food, not being an example to her children if she has any, she might lay with me when she gets aroused and has that need to fulfill, but she don't respect me. So once I learned that, right, that's when I came to that decision. I came to two decisions in my life. I never lived off of a woman. You know what I'm saying? I never slept, lived. I mean, I've slept over a woman's house before, but I never lived in another woman's place. I always had to have my own, right? Even if it was go back with my parents. I'd rather go back and live with my parents than live off of a woman. And I never agreed with going to strip clubs. I went to one strip club in my life. My friend took me for my birthday. But you know why I don't do it? Because the self-respect thing. If I'm paying you to tease me and I think I'm running game on you, but I'm not, you just getting my money, I'm the fool. And a lot of brothers had a problem with my YouTube page. I got a video that talks about it. And there was one brother that said, oh, I think you're taking it too seriously. But I was like, you don't understand my concept. I had a friend who was a stripper. Me and her was cool back in the day when we was young. I think she moved away, but she used to tell me how she used to be like, Rich, I'm going to make money. And a lot of these dudes in there think I really like them. So dudes be in there dropping thousands. You know what I'm saying? For what? I don't knock anybody that goes. It's not a judgment, but it's just a standard I've set for myself. But I say that to say, right? I didn't mean to go way off like that.
No,
but
good,
I say that to say, yeah, my concept of my self-respect and my dignity has to be together before I could really engage in a real relationship. But I think people come into relationships broken without really trying to fix themselves. And because life will break you sometimes. I think everybody gets broken at one point in a time, but my whole point is that we have to come into the relationship, first of all, under God's will. That's first and foremost. Order. Remember, I talked about order before. But then we have to come into it realistically. Don't paint a picture. You got to learn as you go. You know what I'm saying? I never painted a picture with marriage as a man. I might have did it but you got to learn as you go. That marriage is learning. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but there was a lot of things that I had to give up and stop doing because my wife came first. And a lot of people don't understand that. Your wife comes first.
I agree. You're right. When the wife comes first thing, but the fact that people are going into relationships broken and not really fixing themselves, you tend to break other people. When you go into a relationship broken and the toxicity that comes with being broken, you tend to put that on the other person, and then you tend to break them and you make them toxic. Now, if the relationship does not work, you've just created another toxic person who's now broken into the world, trying to find another relationship. And I feel like that cycle just keeps going on and on and on. Like the chain continues to build, where we're constantly building toxic people because we're constantly going into relationships broken and not really working on ourselves, because we tend to want to blame somebody else. And a lot of times when our relationships are not working, you look in the mirror at the common denominator, it's you. So it's a big thing when people going into relationships broken, and people don't realize it, especially for people who live to have a 30-year marriage, a 40-year marriage, some 50-year. I mean, I know some people that have 60-year marriages. And it's because they learned as they were going. They didn't have this perfect picture in their head of what marriage is supposed to be. And they learned about each other. They learned how to work with each other. They learned each other's understandings, how to get through certain things, and they talked it out. And a lot of times we're not even getting to the stage where talking it out. We're just arguing, and we're reacting. And now we have a lot more divorce rates after being married a couple months or a few months, maybe 2 years before we have another divorce on the table. And then everybody's angry when they leave out. So I agree. We fix ourselves and we can fix relationships in total itself.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you got to have goals set. Like a couple of my exes, they were surprised when I got married, but I told them, I was like, yo, listen, this was one of my goals. I just, God sent somebody that was serious. Like the reason why I didn't stay with them, because they wasn't serious. There was things they was doing in the relationship that was like, I'm a person that if I realize that a woman's playing head games, I already know it can't work. You know what I mean? So I'll ease my way out. And so a couple of, because I dated older women. I never really was into younger women. I've always dated older. When I was in my late 20s, I had, girlfriends that was like in their 40s. That's just what I liked. Like I said, I'm old school, so I grew, when I was younger than that, I had girlfriends that was like, 39, 40, almost 50 sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was in the same age range. I was in the same.
Yeah, but I like mature. But even some of the older ones could be immature. But there was two relationships that I was in where I was, trying to be serious. I had the goal of getting married, and I don't know if they didn't take it seriously or maybe they didn't know how serious I was. Like, well, people have a tendency of looking at your imperfections, but don't look at your process. And I'm like, you may see incompletion now, but I'm in the process. So now, I know one of them was like surprised. I seen her in the Bronx one day, and she was like, "I didn't know you got married." And she was saying something to the effect of like, "I didn't think you would get married." And I was like, "Well, I always told you that that's what I wanted." But that was a goal I had set, and God helped it come to fruition. So yeah.
Okay, I agree because I was gonna bring this up. I've seen when it comes to the man and the women, I see a lot of men who have the goal of marriage. And when you said about playing games, I feel like there's a lot of women who's turning men down that propose to them, but yet they complain that there's no men out here that have that same goal as in yourself, as in we want to get married. A lot of men want to be married. A lot of men want to settle down and have a family and chill and do things of that nature. But a lot of times we're proposing and we spend years in a relationship just to be told no. And it kind of turns the men into a beast per se, to a point where they're not really caring about nobody else no more after that. And they tend to want to hurt the next person after the next person after the next person. Because of that one day that we were told no, and we really felt like, okay, this is our time, we're ready. And not too many people can get over that to tell themselves they can meet somebody else and get married. A lot of times they take that as an anger and they lash out on every other female that's around them, and then we lose sight of people who want to get married, and that rate starts to go down as much. So I feel like a lot of times the men are taking the hardest hits, because once we offer the proposal and I feel like you say no, where do we go from there? You know what I'm saying? As a man, where do we really, a lot of men don't really just take that as a positive spin and say, you know what, maybe you're not for me. A lot of times they take it as in, you know what, maybe I'm not supposed to be married, just pissed me off right now, let me go lash out. So I see a lot of that going on as well, especially for us men who are proposing, because that's our goal, to get married. And we're being told no left and right.
Yeah, well,
putting a lot of work in the relationship.
Yeah, so you gotta, I'm sorry, you gotta understand that, and always remember this. This is just true. The dudes, the brothers like us who at least try to be decent and have these goals, a lot of us are looked at as corny or boring. And I'm not saying that out of my opinion. I've been told that. You know what I'm saying? When I was cheated on, by one of my exes, that's basically what came out. It was like, I was boring because I was safe, but that was the reason she was with me, because I was safe. She knew where I was going to be. She knew I wasn't going to leave her. She knew, but then the other dude was the adventure. You know what I'm saying? And so I always tell people, ego is not a male thing. It's a human thing. Men have a tendency to have ego about how many women they can conquer. You know, uh, women tend to have the ego where they like, oh, I need a challenge. You're not a challenge. You know what I'm saying? But what makes you think you need a challenge? You know what I'm saying? That going after a man who don't want to be kept, for lack of a better term, that's not a challenge. That's just, a dog chasing their tail, like a pointless effort. But all my life, I've been overlooked. I was the corny dude. You know what I'm saying? But let me tell you, at 44 years old, where my life is now, I'm glad I was the corny dude. I'm glad, because all that, swagger and all of that, it doesn't keep a family together. Don't get me wrong. I believe I have my own swagger. You know what I'm saying? But I want to master being a man first, because I could have swagger but no manhood. So yeah, I didn't mind being that corny dude. I had to learn, but yeah, I was the corny cat. The square. But I'm good with it. I'm good with it because I learned that it was really the others around me that was the squares.
Okay. I got one more thing I want to ask as well, ladies and gentlemen. As a reminder, this is the Talk Galore podcast. We will be rebranding to the Black Perspective podcast after this interview. And again, follow this podcast, interact with it. I would love to have you guys on as well, whoever's listening. I'd like to promote positivity here on this platform. And I'm going to put another PSA out there as well for February. At least for February. I would like for this to be all year round, but for at least February, can we please not kill one another? Can we at least put the guns down? Any beef you have, just let it go, at least for these 28 days. I would like for it to be more, but that's a challenge I'm issuing to you guys, because it seems like we can do the crate challenge with no problem and end up in the hospital to see what I like to call stupidity from our people. It is what it is. But we need let's put a positive challenge out there. Let's come together and start a business. Let's see how many businesses we can create in the next year. Like, let's just put some of these challenges out there, and for whoever's listening, continue to spread this challenge to one another, because we might not be able to save everybody's life, but we can save that one person from going under by just putting the gun down at one time. I'd like to put that out there as well. But let's get back to this interview. Okay, let's talk one last thing I want to speak about, and this is more of a man, from a man's perspective, because I don't believe nowadays there's no safe space for a man to express himself or any kind of hurt that he's going through. I'm going to use a few people as examples, because these are celebrities that's been going around, and I've noticed it as well. Because we're considered punks when we decide to let our emotion out. We're considered punks. So a man like Tyrese, I'm pretty sure you're aware who that is. He couldn't see his daughter. He couldn't see his daughter for a couple of years. The mother was keeping it from him, and he cried on social media about it. And instead of people looking at this man saying that he's hurting, somebody should look out for him and things of that nature, they started to laugh at him and make a meme out of him. Will Smith was going through this hurt that he was going through with Jada doing what she was doing to him, and this man cried as well, and they laughed at him. And currently now, Kanye West is going through the same thing when it comes to seeing his children and being a dad and things of that nature and wanting his family. And I believe everybody's laughing at him as well. And what is the problem today, that it seems like a man does not have that safe space to at least show some kind of emotion? Because when we don't show it, they get mad at us for not being that sensitive or that emotional anymore. And a lot of women saying, okay, guys, you're not like this no more. You guys don't do this. You guys don't do that. But when we do, this is what happens. We get laughed at. We get called all kind of sissy. So what's your take on that?
Well, that's simple. Society's a hypocrite. Straight up. Society's a hypocrite. And this is something else we have to realize. Society is sexist towards men. If we really wanted healthy men, we would produce healthy men. I have a theory, right? It's not been proven. I don't believe, but I don't. I think there's an entity in our society and in the spirit world that does not want healthy men. If you tell me I can't cry, if you can't tell me I can't express my feelings, if you can't tell me I can't admit pain because I can't trust you, because if you see my weakness, you're going to change how you feel about me, then you're asking me to hide part of my humanity. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I definitely do not. I definitely do not agree with the disrespect of women. I have a mother, I have a wife, and two daughters. You know what I'm saying? But society is definitely sexist towards men. I saw some of the memes about Tyrese, and everybody was like, "Oh, he's looking for attention," and all. So what? As human beings, we are attention seekers. We're social creatures. So there's nothing wrong with attention seekers. I am an attention seeker, but it's why and what type of attention, right? You know what I'm saying? My children cry out for my attention. Do I say to them, "Oh, y'all just want attention"? That's like saying to a baby, you're crying, you just crying because you're hungry. I'm not gonna feed you. You know, that's what we do to a lot of men who cry in our society. Not to say it doesn't happen to women, it does. But in this instance, we're talking about men. A lot of men in our society, when they cry or put out videos like that, people go, "Oh, they just want attention. I'm not giving them no attention." And then so society is a hypocrite. Men can't cry, right? So if you're telling me that I have to hide part of my humanity, how am I going to make a good husband? How am I going to make a good father? You know, it's important for me, keeping it on the eye, using myself as an example, to be able to be sensitive. I'm raising two young black women. I'm raising two young black females, right? If I'm a harsh father who has no concept of how to acknowledge pain, feelings, needs, nurturing, my wife is not the only nurturer. That's another misconception in our world, that only the mother is supposed to nurture. That's a lie from the pits of hell. Excuse my passion.
You good? You
But
good, bro? Ain't no filter here.
the mother is not the only nurturer. To leave it to the mother to nurture is to be abusive towards her. Because of because if we start a family together and I say the nurturing is all left to you, it's impossible to do. You know what I'm saying? It's impossible to say we're a unit, but all the nurturing is left to you. You know what I mean? Because the children have two parents, so the children are going to desire and need nurturing from both. So for me to say, "Nah, that's all on you," that means you have to explain why daddy can't nurture you. So that's why I said it's being abusive towards the mother, because I leave her in a position to try to rectify something and justify something she can't. You know, so yeah, when I think about all these men that have come forward and expressed pain and they get laughed at, and I feel that some of the blood for some of these people who've been lost is on society's hands. I just believe that in the end, God is going to have something to say about that. The fact that we as a society have laughed at people's pain to the point where they died inwardly, because all murder is not physical. You can murder somebody's spirit. You can murder somebody's um, zeal, their motivation. Suicide doesn't just start with the act of causing yourself bodily harm. You know, a lot of people are murdered inwardly numerous times because your inner man will try to come back to life. Somebody, you know, that's why mental abuse is just as bad as physical, because you're murdering that person's inner being. Um, I do believe that God is going to have something to say about that in the end, about how we laughed at people's pain and then condemn them for not being sensitive. We condemn men for not being sensitive. We condemn men for trying to act macho and prideful, but then when they do come clean about their pain, literally, they're not only made fun of, but they're victimized. Like, just think about it. why did we as young men growing up hold back tears when we were coming up? Because if we showed weakness, a lot of people felt, oh, we could bully him, we could take his stuff, we could beat him up. So it's bigger than us trying to act tough. It's bigger than that. There's something we're trying to escape. I have to know that I could trust you if I allow myself to be vulnerable with you. And that's what I've had to tell a lot of women in the past. Like, you want to pull truth out of me, cool. And I don't mean truth about faithfulness. I mean, if a man is unfaithful, yeah, she needs to know that. But I'm talking about just about feelings. You want to pull truth out of me about how I feel about certain things, but I need to know why you want this information. Are you going to use it against me? And I had to tell a young lady one day, if you have to keep telling a man or anybody that you're trying to prove it, that he's trying to prove himself, then maybe you're doing something or asking that of him. We're asking, our society is condemning men for being macho, but then challenging them to be macho. Or if you cry like you just want attention, or he must be trying to sell another record. And can he take a day off of being a singer or a celebrity and be human? He's human, you know. So when I saw some of those things, like how people made fun of these men for crying and stuff like that, I just was like, you know, society is a hypocrite, a big hypocrite. Society is very sexist. It's sexist towards men, you know, big time. It's sexist towards everybody, but they don't talk about how society is sexist towards men. If we can't cry, if we can't be human, then we can't be a good husband to a wife, because she's married to somebody who part of his humanity is cut off. It doesn't make sense. So that's how I feel about that. Like, yeah, I think the hypocrisy in society is sad.
Okay. That's perfect. That was perfectly said. That was perfectly said. We're gonna get out of here now. I'd like to thank Mr. Urban Journalist, Mr. Richard Adamson II, for joining the show this evening.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. I'd love to have you back again in the near future, and any other future endeavors that you start to get into, or let them know about that as well. Can you let the people that's going to be listening know where they can find you and the things you do at, like websites, any tag handles, things of that nature?
Okay. My website, Rise Humanity, is up, but it's currently under some maintenance, so I'll share that in the future. But I have, you know, you can find me on Facebook under my African name, Muamini Himiel. And you can find me on YouTube as well, Richard Adamson II. I'm also on Instagram. And there's a couple other links that, you know, I'll share with you as well, where I was on the show Girl Talk on the Town with Tanya, and interviewed by Kat Spina, who's a pop rock singer who wrote songs for back in the day. We kind of talked about communication and other issues in the world. So I'll share those links. And you know, just look for future projects for me, as far as like just working in communities, you know. And I always keep in contact with Talk Galore to you know, let you know what's going on. And I've started actually writing a book, and I'm just, you know, trying to finish it. I've been very busy. I just landed a role in a series that's coming up. Hopefully, you know, it start off as a series online, and the producer's talking about getting it on Netflix and stuff like that. So just been really busy, you know, but those are the places you can find me. And I always have the updated information for y'all: Instagram, YouTube, Facebook.
Okay. I'll put some links in the description of this episode as well for you guys who wants to speak to Mr. Urban Journalist himself, Mr. Richard Adamson II, directly. There will be links in the description box of this episode. Without further ado, that's our show for the evening. This is your host who thinks the most, and welcome again to the Talk Galore podcast, which we will be rebranding as the Black Perspective Podcast. Thank you very much. You guys stay safe, get home safe, love each other and yourselves.
Mm-hmm.